All right, so now it's 1 o'clock, and I'm glad a number of you have made it to our second webinar of the year on scheduling, kind of a refresh and what's new in Muddy Boots. My name is Mitchell Bolt. I'm part of the implementations team here at Muddy Boots, along with Tara Sweet. She does some implementations and all of our marketing for us, which is very nice. So today we're gonna go over scheduling review the general scheduling, all the different scheduling types, the effect of hierarchy, site and equipment status, any new scheduling features that we've added over the recent term. You've probably seen the calendar view for scheduled requests, along with multi-select if you have specific access, which I imagine all of you do. To edit multiple schedules in one swoop, to reassign or realign scheduling and scheduling dates. And then we'll look at exporting the schedule for review, and just how all of that affects your dashboard throughout. So if anybody has questions, I noted that in the chat already, but we'll throw any questions you have in there. We'll try to talk about them, as they're relevant, and anything we don't get to or don't kind of, catch, we'll loop back to at the end, and we can open this up to discussion at the end and add any other items people want to talk about. One of the other scheduling enhancements that I just missed mentioning now that we'll discuss is scheduling by run hours. So utilizing an equipment's cumulative run clock to estimate an activity date based on an inspection frequency or a maintenance frequency. So we'll cover that as well. So first things first, for those users on this webinar that are relatively new to Muddy Boots, everything revolves around the system hierarchy. So everything you can see, everything you can schedule, everything you can complete, and anything completed that you can review, all requires you to have the correct hierarchy set. So this isn't, directly scheduling related, but it does impact any scheduling you do in Muddy Boots. So you'll notice we're in our demo space. If you see muddyboots.demo, that's what that is. So we do all of our demos and webinars in this space. So coming down just below the Muddy Boots, the homepage button, you're going to see Caroline. So this is actually the hierarchy I have set for the purposes of this demo. So everything you see in here is set, is going to be, subset from the full list of schedules and requests and reports and assets, equipment and sites. All you're going to see is what's in Caroline. So if I wanted to change that, I can back out to the Alberta area. I can pick a different area, or I could choose all areas. In this case, in this demo space, everything lives under that Alberta hierarchy. And I'm going to leave it under Caroline just to simplify our schedule, right? I'm sure many of you have, a significant amount of planned maintenance items, maybe sampling if you're doing an analysis type feature set, or meter cals, or any sort of mishmash of planned maintenance items. And your schedules can get quite overwhelming. So subsetting down to a narrower field hierarchy is very beneficial in viewing, what's important to me today. And, for an operator that maybe only works in one field, what's important to them every day, day in, day out, right? So they want to have their hierarchy set so they can see the schedules that are applied to them. I also like to always start on our dashboard, right? So you can see all the different requests. These are customizable. You guys are mostly familiar with that. And broken out into a few items. All of these links take you directly to their scheduled request page or the reports page, work order page, what have you. And typically they're they're labeled as such. So these are all my assigned group requests. So I'm actually just going to follow this link. This is all being canned setup, so it's pretty small numbers. You may see hundreds in your own reporting, but as people complete their tasks throughout the month, those numbers shrink really nicely. So I'm just going to navigate over to my request page. So this is everything we currently scheduled in this care line field. It's pretty small subset of scheduling items. And, right on here, you're going to see, some proving reports, some EFM reports, a schematic review. See there's a monthly fugitive emissions on here that's being completed, and an hourly maintenance, right? So that kind of covers, I'd say, a good number of our different scheduling types, but there's 4 different ways to set up a scheduled item. We have single requests, so if you just want somebody to go and do a single item, which would be probably this V-code meter report because it comes from a work order, right? You're just trying to do a one-off activity, get that cleaned up, about your daily goal. There's recurring events, so things that happen every single month. You keep it open for the month, like a tank inspection. You want that done every month at every tank that requires those inspections. Rolling events, maybe they're annual, but they're only annual after they've been completed. So you complete it in June, and that rolling request gets kicked off for next June. And then, as we discussed before, run hour-based scheduling. So based on the asset hours and a set hourly frequency. Alrighty. So again, I'm kind of covering things we've discussed previously, or maybe you're familiar with using the system, but I want to cover the bases before we jump into any new features. So, to kind of bulk out this schedule for the purposes of our webinar today, I'm actually going to set a field level default. So for those that don't know, scheduled defaults are only going to be for those rolling or recurring events. You can't set a one-off activity that's going to be a default, right? You only do those things once, those single events. And run hours, you really need to specify the asset and the hourly interval. So those change between compressors, they change between motors, and there's no good way to do a default currently in the system for hourly based scheduling because they seem to be all over the place. But for this, we're going to just say we have to do a fugitive emissions screening annually. And we're going to set that to the care line field. So, I noted my hierarchy prior to this, and I can see all these others because the defaults is an administrative tool. Even though I'm set in the care line field, I can look at these other defaults. Apparently, there's none in Cooley Ridge, but you can see what defaults are already set up in this field. So we have panel checks every 6 months, EFMs every year, pigging it once a month, so on and so forth. Apparently, these tank inspections are only every 3 months, but that's a demonstration. So I'm going to schedule my fugitive emissions screening here. So right away, I can go through. This is, most of you may be familiar with this if you've set up any single schedule events. The defaults look exactly the same. So I'll give it a description. It's going to be a pretty canned description, and it's actually going to be the same as the activity name. So I've chosen my equipment type, which then filters my activity list to 2 activities that you can record against those specific assets. So if I change that asset type, I would then be shown a different activity type list. Again, I'm going to assign it to this Carson oilfield group, which I've placed myself in, again, for the demo. I'm going to say, yeah, it's an annual emissions, but we do it in June every year. Okay? Each one, sure, it's going to take me 3 hours. I get paid more when I go and actually do work in the field. And material cost, not all that expensive. We'll assume, right? So these are just estimated costs, and these can be updated later if you really want to get down and start tracking that information on your requests. And we'll say this is recurring. So again, rolling, it won't start the next schedule item until this one's completed. Recurring, every June, once a year, that's always going to show up. June 1st, annually, recurring schedule. The rolling schedule, it'll pick that point in time that you complete it, schedule out the next one. I'm going to give this a custom range so it doesn't span the entire 365 days. I'm going to say, you know what, 5 days. After that, this is overdue. You have the whole year to complete it, but you only have 5 days where it's active. After that, we want it to be done. So what this default's going to do is it's going to apply the schedule for the fugitive emission screening to every gas wellhead in the Caroline field. Right? These can then go and be modified, and that'll be the very first thing we're talking about. That's new functionality. So, yeah. I've created my default. We'll give the system a minute because it's got to now schedule that out annually for the next however many years, well into the future, and on each and every one of the gas wellheads in this field. So we only display a set number of years of events. Typically, if you're doing an annual schedule, that's going to show you the next 8 years. Sorry, I misspoke. The next 8 instances on annual, or every 2 years, every 3 years, we'll show you the next 8 instances out. Once that first one gets completed, that next instance will then be displayed. It just allows our scheduled data table to not get absolutely overwhelmed. So I'm going to go back to my request list, and all of those fugitive emission surveys should be there for the year. Right? Looking at our data table, we have a lot of overdue requests. And for those of you who may not have the administrative functionality or haven't used this yet, you can now multi-select on these annual items. So if I select one of these, I can go and edit, or I can actually edit multiples at the same time. So let me subset this list so I'm not looking at all of my schedules, because I really only want to modify my fugitive emission survey or screening this year. So I'm going to add a filter chip. You start typing, the system will populate any activities that match that description, and we're going to add a new filter chip. I left my selections on there. I can select all and modify all of them at the same time. I can deselect all, or I can do a mix and match. But again, to kind of break things out, this is too much work for me to do between June 1st and June 6th. And I've already missed it, or I'm already in the overdue state. So let's make these scheduled items active again. So, 10 at 25, 10 at 12, and 14 at 16. Let's say I can do all of those in 2 days. So I'm actually going to edit all 5 of these at once. I'll edit for the year. You know what? I'm going to do them today, and I'll be done with them tomorrow. Or I want to, reassign those to somebody specifically. So instead of just the group, it's going to be me doing all of these items. And now I'm going to update all of those fields on those 5 scheduled requests. Again, I can go and change all these items out, right? Apologize if you know the Carson Oilfield Services. It's just a name we decided to use today. And you get a little modal pop-up saying, hey, you are going to change all these records that you've selected. Make sure this is what you want to do, and we're going to go and do that. So this is something that's relatively new in the system, and you can go and change up to as many entries as you can see on this data table. That is also selectable here at the bottom. So I could show up to 200 entries, and I can modify all those schedules all at once. And all these other ones I want to go through, and I'm going to actually reassign all of these as well. I'm going to edit all of these, and we're going to say these can be the week after. You got 4 days. There's a few more of them. Maybe somebody else is doing these today. Terry, you're going to be doing these ones. I'm going to update those items. Hit OK. So now all of those are updated. And if you notice, they disappeared from my list. This is all due to my, my filter searching for my name. If I remove that, I can get those back, and they're all assigned to Tara. So if she has a dashboard set up, let's say that's looking for scheduled requests assigned to her, these are now going to show up. So she's going to see, oh, I have 6 requests to do. I want to go look at all these. Right? So, we've realigned our schedule. We've modified multiple items. I can go in and modify a single event as well if I really need to. Great. But if I'm looking at this and I say, okay, this 60 to 4 well, yeah, I've rescheduled it, but why is it on my schedule? This whole site is out of service. Why am I even going there, right? As an administrator, I may have that information. Hopefully I do. So I'm actually going to go to this service location, and I'm going to take that entire site out of service. So we've set up our default. We've modified our schedule. I'm going to go to that site, and I'm going to remove it from the service period here. Find my site. I have a not in service period here on the left, and I'm actually going to completely take this out of service. And I'm just going to say, hey, it's going to go back into service in October, right? I'll pause any of those schedules, but I'm going to allow them to be recorded. So what this means is I've paused any scheduled events for this site until October, but people can still go there and record activities. This is typically, if you have HS&E activities, you want to record a hazard ID or an incident report, you may not be producing at the site. It may be out of service or down, but you may still have contractors or operators or whomever going out to these sites. And if they're there, they want to be able to still complete activities while they're on that location. Okay. And continue. Now it's giving me all of those assets on the site as well. So those were just site level activities, but I want to do the same thing for my high pressure shutdown, for my wellhead. Pause, I'm going to allow that activity. Turns out this site is very simple. It looks like there's only 2 different types of assets that have scheduled requests. In your production environment, you may have more, you may have less. That's not here. So now I've created that non-service period, and yeah, I definitely created the non-service on the simplest site we have. It does only have 2 assets. That's now being applied all the way down to the asset level. So I've gone and clicked on this well, and that's out of service. You may still see you're scheduled here for a couple of minutes. It takes the system a few minutes to cascade these service periods throughout and remove them from the schedule. Go back here. And as I can see, my 16-4 well has now fallen off of that schedule. Come October, goes back in service because I set that end date. The new schedule will appear for the next annual inspection. So it's a few different things we've kind of covered there. And I know I'm going relatively quickly. Service periods can be applied, just at a particular asset. Say a compressor's down, you want to take it out of service for a few months, or you can take the entire site out of service, or you can kind of do a little mix and match as you see fit. And that's all managed through the sites and assets on the master data table. But it does affect your schedule if you choose it to. So you can continue to have that schedule. You can say pause or not pause, and you can allow or disallow activities to be recorded. I did it in the simplest fashion, paused all the schedules, and allowed all the activities to be recorded. Okay, so you may have seen the calendar here previously. This has shown up relatively recently. I want to say 3 months ago. I can't quite remember the date that we added the calendar. But again, I've added my filters here to my request page. I can actually push those filters directly to my calendar, or I can apply unique filters to my calendar by chasing in this direction, which I'm going to do that for the purposes of today. Right? So this one I've already pre-set up. This is just items assigned to me. I could have added the filter differently. Use things in a couple of ways, but apply that. by the oil field group. You know, I'm in both of them. Multiple filters you can do here. So here's a pretty subset schedule. If you're looking at your entire organization, the calendar is probably not the place for you, but for an individual operator, this is a very good location to really easily view what you have going on for the month. If I had a less subset schedule and I was trying to manage this for my operators, techs, mechanics, whomever, we have this full scheduler week. So this scheduler week is a narrower view, but with a little bit more granular information. So I'm going to go to this scheduler week. I can see the sites I have to go to, or I can go by resource and see who these items are assigned to, right? Days of the week, when they're assigned. We also have back and forth arrows to push you into the future, go back a couple of weeks. Again, this is more for reassignment. So say, again, I'm going to add this to, but I better add Tara to this list because I did assign a bunch of these activities to her. Add Tara. There she is. Sorry, I assigned them to next week. That's all right. So we've added Tara. So now if I want, I can go and modify this event right from the calendar. I'm going to assign this back to Tara. Now she's going to show up on my list. The reason I wanted Tara on my list is I wanted to show you guys how easy it is to modify your schedule from the calendar. Operators won't be able to do this, but if you have the operations administrative role and you're actually scheduling these events, planning your work, this is assigned to me. Maybe Tara's going to do things Thursday and Friday. There, that request is being updated. I'm going to also give her this one to do. So I'm going to drop it down, move it over here. That one's being both reassigned to Tara and actually moved into her calendar space, right? So if a name doesn't exist on this list and you want to add it, you can add the assignee, update, it'll update and add them to this list as long as it's filtered to show the work that they're going to have to do. Everything clear as mud so far? And again, I can look at the sites. So those are broken out into sites or by who they're assigned to based on the resource. So I'm going to go back to look at the entire month. Again, I've kept this list very appended, and we can look at it relatively easily here. The calendar is also color-coded. Orange is going to be overdue items. Green will be complete. Blue are active items or upcoming items. And we do have red as well. So those are missed scheduled events. And they can be updated from this page by dragging them up into the future, right? Moving it from a missed event into an active or upcoming event. You may notice this gray activity on here, and that is the run hour activity. So we haven't gotten too much into run hours yet, but I'll go there in a minute. One more thing, these 5 emission screenings, you know what? I want to really specify when these are due. So I can actually grab the edge of this. These 3 are going to be here. This one out here. There we go. I've just reassigned and moved all those schedules around. A couple of clicks and everything's organized. So I don't have too much work to do today. I've balanced my workload, and I'm happy. I'm ready to go. Does anybody have any questions about the calendar? I guess for anybody unfamiliar with our filters and our search, it works like Google search. Similar type of search terms, partials match. You can use these filter chips to add specific elements that are being searched upon, which is what I've done here. And I can deselect these at any time. And if I remove Tara, the items for her next week are falling off the list. Right. I guess I have next week off, and Terry's going to be doing all the work, but that's okay. Okay, run hours. So this is the only piece we haven't covered yet. That's really quite new. That's going to be run hour scheduling. So, if you notice, it's the 15th today in yellow. This cat, compressor, driver, motor, or engine, depending on your terminology and which part of the world you're in. It has an estimated date here, so that's why it's gray. So, hourly events, this is our 1,000-hour maintenance. When I hover, I get a few more details. This is my 1,000-hour maintenance on this cat compressor. So this hourly schedule, is currently set to a planned event, right? So what that means is I plan to do it this way, but I haven't set that schedule in stone yet. So I plan to do it every 1,000 hours in this case. But, if I had a 10,000-hour schedule, I want to align all these items so it happens when I'm doing my shutdown. A lot of rotating maintenance managers, they deal with this work all the time. So, I have a 10,000-hour schedule, but, the equipment will be at 9,000. We're performing a shutdown. So I'm actually going to go in and I'm going to firmly schedule those events to happen on a set date. So I can do that from this pane, and I can say schedule it on this day. Or again, I can just drag and drop this over here. Now that's been updated, right? Oh, I've changed my mind. I don't know when I want to do that. I can change this back to planned, and based on the currently recorded operating hours for that asset, hit update. That's going to move it back to the 17th, right? And I've given them a 2-day limit. I didn't actually schedule run hour recording. That's typically done on their offline run sheet. If I were to go to this asset, so the JGK40, I'll just go to my equipment list. Since I forgot to schedule it prior to this meeting, I'm actually just going to record a run hour today. Oh, I already did. All righty. So let's say, no, I was actually wrong. It's at 990 hours, and I update this. If I go back to that schedule, my maintenance item has actually now moved. So, we assume in the back end of our system that everything's running for maximum of 24 hours a day. But if you have something that's down and, this compressor comes up every month and it's out into the future, as long as you have somebody going in and recording the engine hours on that asset, or you have it, being delivered to our system via SCADA, that scheduled item will continually get pushed out into the future, right? Until a maintenance manager says, hey, I want to set this out now, or it reaches that 1,000 hours. We do on our side have error handling, so I can't say it has 900 hours today and 700 hours tomorrow. Only hours that make sense will be allowed to be recorded in the system, or you'll be interrupted with an error. Right? We've kind of done this because we've run into people adding an extra 0 or exchanging a 6 for an 8 or a 9, right? As you do in any sort of field, right? Or even we did have a case of the SCADA system throwing in erroneous value. So instead of having that update our maintenance manager's schedule, that was errored. He saw the error and was able to rectify it on their side, which then updated the schedule accordingly. Again, I can plan this. I'm going to plan this for next week. And if I feel like it, I can say exactly this date, right? So just go and record one of these events. Everything you can record from your schedule request table, you can also record from the calendar. And it's a very similar modal. Any sort of operator will not have access to edit these fields. This is, again, for the folks that are managing these systems. And I'll record this, This was kind of what we covered in some of our last webinar, was all the new features in our forms, text, pre-filling fields, multiple sub-questions. So I'm just going to, I hope I didn't put too many rules on this activity. You know what? Yeah, there's a shutdown. So I'm just going to record that. Oh, I got a few errors. So I've mandated these fields, completely forgot about it. And normally you would want to fill out your entire activity because that's the correct thing to do. So if you notice, I completed that activity. It's now been updated. So I can easily look at my schedule daily and knock things off, and I'll see it go from blue and orange to green. Okay? Go back to my request list. I have a few different filters again, but we'll just take that off for now. We'll look at everything for the entire year. I have 149 items. Maybe I don't want to manipulate my schedule from here. Maybe I do, but those are options for you to do. You can pull different sorts of exports out of your scheduling table. They're going to include information like the completed date, a link to the report, who it was assigned to, and any other data field that you have. Right? Again, multi-select allows you to, I could grab all my well inspections and push them. So, next month, I can filter my data table, so on and so forth. And this is everything that's assigned to this company. So if I really wanted to show, an affiliate company, work that they have to do coming up, what they've completed in the year, this is everything for the year. I could just pull an Excel report and send it over to them. This Carson Oilfield Group within Muddy Boots has access through our Industry Access Manager to the demo company, and they can complete reports in this space. That's a discussion for another time. Okay? I'll just give you a quick example of what this looks like. So again, you have your scheduling dates, and it's all the same information. If I go across, okay, I have a couple of these that are complete, the links to the report, and then the status, right? And here's my repeat frequency, so this is an hourly one. You have all of that information pulled into Excel if you have too many schedules to deal with within a data table. Alrighty, so I'm going to put a couple of questions out there for everybody, if anyone wants to, answer these. Is there any scheduling functionality that you're familiar with that I didn't cover today? Any sort of methodology that I didn't cover for you that you would like to look at within Muddy Boots? Or if there's any scheduling for those who are using the system, functionality that they're happy with, or like to see changes to. Okay, the difference between overdue and missed. John, I remember this question because I answered it for TJ. So the difference between an overdue event and a missed event is any event that's set to being overdue is able to be recorded after that window. So if we're looking at this event here from the 8th until the 12th, so we're 3 days overdue, but because of the way it was set up in the schedule, and I'm just going to click on this scheduled request here, it's still able to be recorded, right? So if I click on this, comes from a work order, which is a little bit different because it includes the work order details, but it's able to be recorded, right? If, say, it's set to being missed, once you hit that missed window, you can no longer record that activity. This is typically something that's set up for events that recur monthly, so say tank inspection. If I didn't get to it in June, well, I've missed it. Now I'll be able to complete the July event, right? So that's really the difference between the two. And I can, that's a completed event. That's a bad example. Here, let's go to one that's set up, and I'll make it say missed. So here's our overdue event here. If I show that this is missed, I update. Spend a minute. So now you're going to see all these missed events, right? So they're not able to be recorded. Oh, sorry, I filtered that incorrectly. I should have been looking at that before. This was the one I have just updated. Sorry about that. It's no longer to be able to be recorded because I've missed that window when I'm, in compliance with completing that report. I can still go complete a report on that asset in Muddy Boots, just not from this table because it is now outside of that recorded window. So I can't link it to this request because I'm not recording it in the correct time frame. Again, tank inspections, monthly pigging, those sorts of items. I can't complete June's in July, in August, what have you, and I want to see where my guys are falling short if they are, and that way I can kind of get to the root cause of maybe I've overloaded certain folks and they're missing more events than others. Right? Again, they can still be rescheduled, they can still be completed outside of the schedule as an ad hoc, if you will, those sorts of items. Right? So thanks for the question, John. All right. So I don't have anything more for scheduling today. We are working on more scheduling enhancements in the future. For those who are uninitiated, within our support portal, we have a sign up for our monthly Bootstrap email. All our new features get thrown out in there under our support portal. And you can subscribe to Bootstrap if you like, once a month or once every other month, depending on how excited we are. We send out a current status of the system, any new enhancements that are large enough to be talked about, not just change the color of blue to slightly less blue, or what have you. And those sorts of changes all get covered in our Bootstrap email. We also have all of our training and documentation under our support portal here where my mouse is on the left. And live chat anytime anybody needs to talk if you have scheduling or any other questions, right? And, we're on those live chats every day, Monday to Friday, most weekends. So let's ask one last question. Is there anything you guys would like to see in the next webinar? So we have a couple of webinars lined up, or anything you'd like to see here prior to me signing off. We haven't set it in stone yet, but we're going to be doing both a general navigation webinar and an affiliations webinar in the coming months. And if there's anything that you would like to see, shoot us a line, shoot a message in the chat here, and we can either work it into this one, into the next one, or it may become an entire full webinar to be presented.
Oh, look at that.
Hey, John, I just allowed all the attendees to talk. So if anybody wants to bring anything up, like I said, or suggest a webinar topic, or just a small topic that that maybe there's something you want to cover, now's the time.
No, the stuff you mentioned sounds good. I just
I thought of a question.
Sure thing, Yvonne.
Okay, so let's say your assigned to person is on vacation and somebody else is filling in for you. Can you go into the other assigned person's activities and check mark those tasks as completed for them?
You can't mark them as completed because the reports would have to be completed in here. If say these three are assigned to me, I don't have to be the person to complete those activities. Somebody else can complete those activities, right?
Okay.
Right. The other option is if you really want them to see it and visually have that indication that they have things assigned to them, have those show up on their dashboard. Again, all of these activities, I'm filtered to a very appended list here. These don't have to be the same activity. I could go and modify all these and reassign them, right? So I'm just going to send them back to that group. And now they're no longer on mine. I'm away. Now they're on somebody else's schedule, right? If you don't want to do that again, if somebody's covering for me for the week, they can still complete those requests. If they know they're going to location X, Y, and Z, they can go to those locations and still, mark off that they've done those activities, complete their reports in the system, submit it, and the system will still link those as long as they're within the active period, right?
Yeah, we just created a measurement group and assigned everything to the measurement group. I know in the US they like to assign things to specific guys a lot.
Yeah. I mean, in a demo, I will assign to people, but yes, typically you would want to assign it to a group, and that way you kind of cover those those times when people do have days away or unavailable, right?
Yeah.
And again, for those who may have affiliate companies, so these are service companies doing work for you. So here's an affiliation link, so you can manage it if you're a company administrator. But you can add those affiliate users to a user group and assign everything to that group, and that way that affiliate company, they manage their own team, and all you're doing is managing the work that you're assigning to them. Which in this demo space for us is that Carson oil field.
Hey, back to my earlier thing, and I'm pretty sure TJ explained it to me, but when I'm setting up a scheduled item, if I select it to go overdue if they miss it, if it's an annual item, when it comes due next year, if it's still been it's still overdue, when the next due date comes, it'll switch itself to missed and then start again, right?
It does stay as overdue.
Okay.
So if they've moved in, if you haven't done that request into the next year, it will stay as overdue. So,
okay.
So that is something we've been discussing, adding more options to. But we don't have those options there at the moment.
Okay, so it's just a matter of we could figure it out.
Thanks, John. But no, that's a very good question. So.
Yeah, sometimes the operations shut wells in on us and don't tell us when they're coming back. So.
Yeah, and just so you're aware, the reason it's set up that way is we do have some clients that do their monthly schedules, but on the 30th of the month, somebody forgets to actually fill in that they've completed those items, so they go back and knock off those overdue ones, even though the next month is now in the active state.
Right. Cool.
Anybody else have anything they want to see, discuss, take a look at? I know I didn't spend much time on the dashboard, but so everyone's aware, and I'm sure you know this. Anything completed here that's part of my groups, all those dashboard counts get updated every time I go back there or hit the refresh button. Those counts will be changed and realigned, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, I will sign off and everybody have a great rest of your day. We will send out a summary of this webinar, similar to how we did the last one, with a little breakdown of the new functionalities and all those features and everything we've discussed. And then once we've scheduled the next one, anybody part of those groups will get a notification for the next webinar.
Okay.
Awesome. So thank you, Sarah, for signing on today. And thanks everybody else for being here as well. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.